Hello, my name is Jackie Forster. I live in San Angelo, Texas. This is my attempt to explain my condition, dealing with chronic pain, and the ups and downs of my current situation. Um, let's start at the beginning. December 1st, 2014, I woke up with a small pain kind of in the middle of my back. I thought it was a cramp or something like that that I could, overcome quickly and just move on with my day. But um, I got out of bed, took a few steps, and I hit the floor. So I still thought in my mind that it was something that would pass. So it took me a few minutes to get up off the floor, and it took me three more steps to hit the ground again. And I still, in my own mind, figured it's nothing, it'll pass. So I attempted to get up one more time, and I took about three or four steps, and I ended up on my kitchen floor. So at that time, I decided this might be a little more serious. At that point in my situation, I called my job and let them know I would be a little late, thinking that somewhere in the back of my mind that it would still um, eventually pass. But um, as I tried to get up for the third time, I was having a lot more difficulty. So I figured that it was something wrong as far as my back, like a cramp or something just needed to be adjusted. So I crawled around on my floor and got on some sweats and a t-shirt, and I crawled out to my truck, got in and headed for my chiropractor. Um, as I was driving along, the pain just continued to get worse and multiply. I made it to my chiropractor's office, got in the door, and I was in great pain. So they skipped all the formalities and got me right in. Um, when I got in, the chiropractor, she got me on the table, did a quick assessment of feeling me down my spine and stuff like that, and thought that, maybe I just needed an adjustment. So we went about it that way. She gave me an adjustment. You hear a pop pop and here a click, there a click kind of thing, if you know what I mean. And I thought, hey, I'm all better. So got up off the table, um, thanked the chiropractor. They said they would bill me, which was great, if you know what I mean. So I got out of the office, made it to the front door, and the pain came back with a passion. It hit hard, and I hit the ground again before I got out the door. So went back into the chiropractor, and she did another adjustment. Things went back to feeling better or more stable. This time I made it out of the office, got to my truck. I was thinking that I'm going to be okay, so I drove back home to my apartment. I could still feel like a hint of the pain, but it wasn't the same. So I got to my front door, stuck the key in and unlocked it and opened it. And all the pain I had felt before came back and hit like a sucker punch. And I hit the ground. So the top half of my body was in the door. My lower half was hanging out the door, and I couldn't do a thing about it. So I laid there for a few minutes, hoping that my neighbors wouldn't pass by and think that I was drunk or something. So I crawled on in, to my home, shut the door, and I called my job and let them know that I would not be making it into work that day. So I crawled into my bed. I took some medication for pain, um, and got in the bed and the pain was still there. I went to sleep. Um, Throughout that day and on into the night, the pain would go through highs and lows. It was like a lot of pain at some point. It brought me to tears. And at other times, it was just a constant pain. So I was still in the back of my mind hoping that this would pass, but the next day was the same. The pain was great. I ended up going to the chiropractor's office and getting another adjustment. Um, the pain stayed, but I could move around a little bit, but the pain was um, almost unbearable. So, to make this portion short, I continued to go to the chiropractor for the whole week. And then on that Friday, the chiropractor said, I can't just keep taking your money. Your spine is perfectly straight. And she made me sit at the edge of a chiropractor's, I forget what it's called, but their table. And she basically gave me a punch in the kidneys. And I almost passed out. So after this happened, she was like, "Yes, okay, now we have something to go on." And she said, "It looks like there may be something wrong as far as your kidneys, and you may be suffering from some type of infection or something like that." So I called my regular doctor's office for, I think, the fourth time that week. Just a little side note, I did call my doctor's office when this began. I called 3 times. The doctor's head nurse thought it was nothing, so she didn't see any reason for me to come in. So they wouldn't let me come in or see me. But on this that week, on that Friday, after the doctor punched me in the kidneys and showed me that there was something wrong, I called. And my doctor's nurse sent me to the clinic. She wanted me to, get a test to see if there was actually an infection. So I did go to the clinic, and, you have to do your thing in the cup. And they tested it pretty quickly, and they found blood, in my urine, and let me know that both my kidneys were um, heavily infected and swollen, pushing up against everything back there. And so the doctor wrote me a prescription for some antibiotics. They also gave me a antibiotic shot and I think a Toradol shot to try to quell the pain for a little bit. So, needless to say, um, the medicine, as far as antibiotics for the kidney infection, started working. Used within about 24 hours. It didn't, heal me right away, but it started to fight the infection. So during this time, I could not go to work, so I was off work um, from December the 14th, December the 1st, 2014. I was off that whole week. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't handle the pain and do my job. And I knew that, so it would have been stupid for me to go into work and have to come right back. At this time, I had vacation and sick time and things of that nature, so I thought, I'll be okay. This will pass and um, it'll get better. My job was very understanding about the situation, and they just hoping I could get better as quickly as possible. Um, by this time, I think we're into the second week or close to the end of the second week, I had lost, I think, about 52, 53 pounds. And the kidney infection was, I think, close to gone. I could still feel, a little bit of a swelling, but the pain was still there. The pain in the spine or the spinal muscles. Sorry, I got a phone call while I'm doing this. Just so you know, when you start to make a video or something like that, um, to try and help others understand your situation, you should probably put your phone on silent. Just a suggestion. And that's what I'm doing right now. Forgive me for the interruption. Um, so, where was I? Okay, the antibiotics were working, and the kidneys were going down as far as like the swelling in them, and I was losing a lot of weight because when you're in a lot of pain, you don't think about eating. Food is like the last thing that you think about. You want to go to sleep because hopefully when you're sleeping you can't feel the pain, and you don't want to move unless it's absolutely necessary. Well, like I said, by this time I had lost about 52 to 53 pounds. And I called my doctor's office again, and the nurse decided that it was worth me being seen. So she set me up an appointment, and I went in about 2 days later. I got into the office. I was barely moving because the pain would not go away. And I didn't know how to make it go away. I was taking pain medication and anti-inflammatory medication to hopefully quell everything, but it wasn't doing a great job. When I got to the doctor's office and they called me in to see me, my doctor looked at me and he was like, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And I was thinking to myself, he should already know this, but the nurse had not um, relayed any of the situation to him. And so he was in shock for the first few minutes because of rapid weight loss that I'd gone through and the painful look on my face and how my movement was. So he got me into his office quickly and made me take off my shirt and took a look at me, and he was still saying, "Oh my God, oh my God." And he goes, "When did this start?" So I explained when it started and how I had called, and I thought that he was up to date on my situation. And he let me know that he had heard nothing from the nurse about the situation or what I was going through. So he excused himself for a moment, and he called the nurse, and they went into an office down the hall, and he had a little talk with her. I call it big talk because I could hear him yelling through the wall, letting her know that he should have known about the situation and seen me sooner, before it got, this bad. Well, he returned in the office with me and apologized for not knowing about the situation and not having been aware of what I was going through. So he set up a bunch of x-rays and scans and blood tests, and wanted to see what he could do for me as quickly as possible. So he started me on a steroid regimen. He got the x-rays done and, the doctor stuff of that nature. And he wasn't sure what was happening to me, and I wasn't either, and knowing that he wasn't sure was not very comforting, because I'm thinking, the doctor will find a quick diagnosis, he'll find a way to fix me and heal whatever was going on, and I could go on with my life. Um, I'm doing this video, so you know that things didn't turn out the way I hoped. But I did the steroid regimen for maybe, I think he gave me a week, maybe 10 days worth. And you follow the regimen of taking the steroids and letting them do their work. But they had no effect. For my next appointment, when I went in, I had lost, I believe, I was at 70 pounds that I had lost. And he was still kind of in shock, and he was afraid for me, which was, it felt good to know that, somebody was in this with me now and I wasn't alone. So he tried a stronger steroid, so we went on that regimen. Well, about halfway through the second steroid regimen, I had run out of sick time and vacation time and things of that nature, and I needed to go back to work. Um, my doctor had given me a pain medication and other medications to try to um, make the pain tolerable and to just help me get through the day. Um, about this time, I was figuring out that I was having trouble sitting down, and the pain in the spine was um, not very tolerable if I tried to sit down. So I would go to work and I would stand as long as I could. And at first, things were moving along. I would stand at my desk, take calls, and just try to do my job as long as I could stand the pain. My job again was very understanding about the situation. My boss said, work as long as you can, and when you can't stand it, go home. That's what I did. So I would do my job, take the calls. You know, um, I work in internet tech support, so I enjoy what I do, helping people, and I would do my job. I mean, you just kind of, as somebody put it, you try to cowboy up and handle the pain and just get through it. And so um, I did. And after a while, I figured out that leaning over my desk was not helpful. So I got some cardboard boxes, sat my um, monitor on a cardboard box, my keyboard and mouse were on another cardboard box, so I sat them up high so I wouldn't have to bend over. So I did this for a while, and my I was continuing the steroid treatment and going back and forth to the doctor. Um, my big boss, CEO of a company, had come over for a visit to our office, and he saw what I was doing to get through work. So he thought that me having to use cardboard boxes, um, he said, we can do better than this. So they got me a desk that, raises up. And I was grateful for that. I put my monitor and keyboard and mouse on it, and I could raise it up to the level of me standing up straight. And we did this for a while, but the pain continued to get worse and worse. Going back and forth to the doctor was becoming a weekly thing, and um, the pain um, each day, at the end of the day, or no matter how long I worked, when I got off work, I'd go to my truck and try to get in, and I'd yell as loud as I could because the pain would hit so hard when I finally sat down in my truck. So most days when I got into my truck, I would have to kind of talk myself into it. And I'd get in and finally sit down and feel the stretch and the pain, and I would scream. Somebody heard me once and they said I screamed like a girl. But, it was what it was. So I'd get in, I'd cry for a little bit, adjust, and, just tell myself you have to just handle the pain until you make it home. And so I would come directly home as fast as I could and take more meds, lay down, and I would felt like I had run a marathon or done something else that would sap all my energy because it was gone. And during this time, I kept going back to my doctor, and I think I did 4 sessions of different steroids to try to help the situation, anti-inflammatories and pain medication. Well, finally got to a point where my doctor said he wasn't sure what else he could do, so he referred me to neurology, the Brain and Spine Center. Um, at this time, or during all of this time, I was still losing weight. I mean, I probably had the best looking body I ever had, but it was just a shell of pain. So I wouldn't recommend a pain diet. It's not any fun. Just so you all know, if you're listening to this, a pain diet or getting sick and losing the weight, it is not. There's no fun to it. There's no good aspect to it. There's no part of it you're going to enjoy. Um, well, they got me over to neurology at this point, and the first chiropractor or doctor, neurologist that I saw, I felt kind of bad or kind of like they didn't want me to. He didn't want me there. He didn't want to touch me or put his hands on me or anything. I tried to, point out what was happening, and he didn't want to touch me. He said a few words and sent me to physical therapy, and I only had to see him that once. After that, I only saw him that once, and he had left the hospital and moved on to somewhere else. So they changed me to a new neurologist um, after I had gotten through physical therapy. Just so you understand, the physical therapy, it was not helpful. It just caused me a whole bunch of pain because I couldn't do the stretches or a lot of the stretches or the workout that they were having me do. It was just too much pain. The physical therapy person was trying to help me as best as he could, but in my situation, he wasn't sure what he could do to fix or improve my situation. And so we moved on to the next neurologist, and I saw her, and she looked at my situation. She had me go to get MRIs done so she could take a better look inside and see what was going on. And I had a few messed up discs and things like that in my spine, as far as like wear and tear, I guess you would call it. Um, my neck and upper part was terrible, as she put it, but she used other words. And my lower was not great, but it wasn't as horrible. Um, I'm explaining this to you just so if someone else is going through somewhat close or in some way what I went through to get to where I am, um, I pray for you all because I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Um, the second neurologist was very caring and attentive and was actually working to try to find a way to fix my issue, to help me, move forward in my situation. So I continue to go to appointments and the change up of treatments. She tried me on different sets of steroids that my other doctor may not have known about or tried because he's not in the neurology, he was a general practitioner. And so we went through that and there was no improvement. And I was steadily losing weight. I think I had lost 75 to 80 pounds. So I looked great, but I felt terrible. For pain medications and different things, medications that I was taking were making things um, tolerable to a certain extent. And the other half was I just had a really high pain tolerance. During this time, I know I haven't mentioned it, but I started losing or having trouble controlling like my hands and things like that. I have these little things I called seizures, where my spinal muscles and everything in my back would go into a horrible spasms, and I would lose control of my hands, and they would curl up and look like this, and I couldn't move. I was just trembling or shaking. Sometimes I would fall, and these attacks would last maybe 5 minutes. Some would last 10. Some would go as long as 15. And it was just a unique situation. With the attacks, the way they would happen is they would drain me of whatever energy I had. And I would be worthless for a little while because, after the attacks would happen, after my body would go through the shock of a seizure, I'd feel like I ran a marathon and I would have no energy. And but me being who I am, I would do my best to suck it up and just keep going. Um, so at that point, they sent me to another doctor to see what was going on there, and I had something called a myoclonic jerk, and that was the muscles in the spine would, have multiple spasms, and come to find out that my spinal muscles were spasming all the time. They wouldn't stop. They wouldn't like take a break, like relax. They were always continuously spasming, sometimes on the low and sometimes at a high rate. And the next doctor gave me a different set of medicines to help with that part. So I started taking that, and just you just keep going. I mean, the pain would never go away. Like I said, since December 1st, 2014, I have not had a day without pain. And glory be to God that I just kept going. Um, when you're going through pain or you're in constant pain, um, you will want and think about doing anything that you can to make the pain stop or get through the situation and not have to live like that every day. So um, during this time, depression set in because of the constant pain without a break, and sadness, um, loss of desire to continue going, but you do it anyway. Um, at some point, you feel like there is no hope because people don't truly feel what you're feeling. They, say they hope you get better and they hope that the pain lessens and, things of that nature just to be caring, and show you that, somebody cares about your situation. But you start to feel like there is no hope. There is no way out of this. It's like a ongoing nightmare, because even when you lay down at night to try to rest or go to sleep, if you move wrong, the pain will aggravate more, send a shock, and it wakes you straight up out of your sleep. There's no groggy wake up, or where you kind of wake up in the morning and yawn. There's none of that. When the pain hits, you wake up and you are fully aware right away. This is my first day to try and explain my situation. My intent of doing this is to hopefully help others dealing with chronic pain to know that other people go through it, and um, in your situation, you may not know the people, but you're not alone. So this is my first attempt in my first video. I hope I've been explanatory enough that people understand up to this point. And in our next session, I will pick up from here and continue with something I like to call the Paul Harvey line, the rest of the story. So this is me signing off for the my first time or shot at this, and I hope you are all out there well and blessed. Thank you. Okay, today's date is May the 28th, 2019. And this is my first video, or the ending of my first video. And I just wanted to let you all know, I'm doing this. I'm trying to do this as best as I can as I'm learning how to do this. This is not something I've ever done before, because I'm a really private person. But I thought that this was something I should share for others that may be going through or dealing with chronic pain. So goodbye to all until my next session.